Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to Operation Freedom Briefings. The goal of these briefings and my weekly radio show, Operation Freedom, which airs out of the People's Republic of Ann Arbor every Sunday from 2 to 5 Eastern. And you can listen. It's live and it's free. All you have to do is go to davejanda.com, hit the live button. That'll take you to Wham Talk 1600 streaming service. Hit that, and you're with us. Great guests, great analysis, information the bought-off lamestream fake media will never deliver. Now, yesterday, I was in the process of delivering a tribute to Rush Limbaugh. And someone's and something, read that as the deep state, decided they didn't want that broadcast to continue. And Wham Talk 1600 got hit with a catastrophic power surge. Now, once can be an anomaly, a couple times a coincidence, but 3 or more times, there's a purpose. A couple times before the election, we got hit with mini power surges that took us down for a short period of time. After the election, when we were speaking about what transpired in that goat rodeo of an election on November 3rd, we had a couple more power surge hits. Well, this was the big one. The terrestrial station signal was down for a short period of time, but the internet streaming service, which is extremely important to our show because we have listeners live in all 50 states and every week in over 120 countries worldwide, got taken down. And it remained down for the remainder of the show and for, well, several days afterwards. They were intent on taking down that broadcast. Why? Because the broadcast centered on empowerment. And an individual, Rush Limbaugh, who showed each and every person, not just of our country, but each and every person who had the opportunity to listen to him, that we all possess God-given talents and abilities, and that we have to use them to the fullest so we can make a positive, profound impact on our country and the world. Rush Limbaugh was fond of saying, and this drove many of his critics nuts, I have talent on loan from God. Yeah, he did. But it wasn't just him. You see, by him saying that, hundreds of millions of individuals just in our country said, wait a minute, if Rush has talent on loan from God, so do I. And that realization propelled, inspired hundreds of millions of individuals to start a business, to write a book, to you name it. And who benefited from all that? Society. The title of my tribute to Rush today, the tribute that I'm going to finish in spite of the deep state taking it down yesterday on our radio show, is Rush returns talent to its originator. February 17th, 2021. Some people will remember that as the day, and they've already termed it, the day talk radio, the day AM radio died. No. It was the day Rush Limbaugh died. But what Rush Limbaugh did during his illustrious career was create a current behind him that isn't going to be stopped. When Rush took to the microphone, there are very few stations that had talk radio formats, let alone conservative talk radio formats. He was about it. But as of February 17th, 2021, There are hundreds and hundreds of stations just in our country, the United States, that have talk radio formats. And the vast majority are conservative. It's a testament to the impact of Rush Limbaugh. You know, when Buddy Holly died, folks said, that's the day music died. When Elvis died, that's the day music died. No, music on their passing was forever changed. But it didn't die. And AM radio and talk radio formats are not going to die because of the power and the impact that Rush Limbaugh had. Will it change? Sure, it'll change. But it's here to stay. And that petrifies the deep state. And what happened at our radio station, Wham Talk 1600, on Sunday is a testament to how desperate they are. Everybody thinks, oh, the deep state's all powerful. They can't. No. They're panicked and they're desperate. On Wednesday, February 17th, the radio intro started on Rush's show. And Rush had not been at the microphone for 2 weeks at that point. And they had not announced how gravely ill that Rush had become. And as the bumper music wound down, Rush's wife, Catherine, came to the microphone. Incredibly courageous. And she started by saying, well, I know this is not the Limbaugh you wanted to hear today. But she went on, the reason is because Rush passed away earlier that morning. Catherine went on and spoke about Rush and the impact he had, not only on a personal level, but on a countrywide level. Millions of people loved Rush Limbaugh. There were a significant chunk of individuals who went so far as to declare their hate for him, about how they despised him. Why? Well, it's because they couldn't beat him. They couldn't get around him. They couldn't defeat him. And they tried for 30-some years. And when they could not defeat him, they hated him. They despised him. Over the years, when someone would say to me, you know, I can't stand Rush Limbaugh. I hate Rush Limbaugh. I go, really? Why? Well, what he said about such and such. And I would always counter it with, did you hear him say that? Did you listen to his show? Did you hear him actually say that? Every single time, the person said, no, I heard about it. So-and-so on the media was talking about what he said. I go, no. Trust nothing. Trust nothing in the bought-off lamestream fake media. Listen to his words. And as I push these people every single time, not one of these people who derided him had ever listened to him. So I challenged these individuals. I said, you know what? I'll tell you what. Tomorrow, listen to his show. Listen to his show. Listen. Don't depend on somebody else feeding you this line of garbage. Listen to him. Every time I did that, I got two responses. I'm not going to do that. Or, okay, I'm going to do it and I'm going to prove you wrong. Well, every one of those people that said, I'm going to listen and I'm going to prove you wrong, called me the next day. Say, you know what? This guy isn't what I thought he would be. You know, I don't think he said what I told you I thought he said. Right. Right. You see, that's what they do when they can't defeat you. They make things up. They deride your personality. They deride your background. They put words in your mouth. Because the deep state is based on hate. Fact. Not data, not facts, not truth, not transparency, not accountability, which is what life should be all about, right? But no. It's all based on hate, on fabrication, on lies. You know, many people, when they think of Rush Limbaugh, they thought, well, that guy was really fortunate. He just hit it big right away, and he's been around for 30-some years. And well, in actuality, the truth of the matter is Rush, it took him 17 years before he was discovered. In fact, he was fired at least 4 times from other jobs in radio. In fact, gave up at one point on radio and worked in group sales for the Kansas City Royals baseball team. And then decided, I can't do this the rest of my life. I got to give it one more try. Which is when he went to Sacramento. And that is when Rush became Rush. And that led to him being syndicated and the big move to New York, August 1st, 1988. Everybody thinks he just walked in a studio and that's when it just started right. No. You see, when I think of Limbaugh and his impact, I think of someone who personified perseverance, dedication, and resiliency. Over the years, and this is what's remarkable in his career, over time he built his audience. Most people do this kind of thing. Rush did this. 25 million individuals weekly listen to Rush. The culmination of his career. Amazing. He was a 5-time Marconi Award winner, which is the highest award you can get in radio. He was inducted into the National Broadcasters, or the National Radio Hall of Fame. And you saw just last year, much to the chagrin of Nancy Pelosi ripping up her papers, Rush Limbaugh was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom. I want to tell you about the Rush Limbaugh I met. It was 1993. It was many years ago. And it was in the swamp in Washington, D.C. A group of senators have formed a committee and they decided they were going to hold a public policy forum, not just for their staffs, not just for members of Congress, not just for the media, but for hundreds of individuals. And hundreds of individuals from around the country were invited to this forum. And I wasn't the first choice on healthcare policy. In fact, someone I had worked with, this Surgeon General C. Everett Koop, they asked him to be involved in the healthcare policy portion of the event. And he didn't like going to the swamp. So I got tapped to speak about healthcare policy. But the keynote speaker was Rush Limbaugh. And my particular day I was going to speak at was on Saturday. It just so happened that was the day that Rush is going to give the keynote address. So that Saturday morning, I got outside the hotel and was walking around D.C. And I was coming back into the back end of the hotel, and a car pulled up. And out of the car got Rush Limbaugh. He was hard to miss. He was a big guy. Many ways at that point. Rush at the time was well over 300 pounds. Rush got out of the car, carried his own bags, and I walked up to him. I said, "Mr. Limbaugh, it's a pleasure and honor to meet you." And he looked at me and he said, "Well, what brings you to this," I think he said, "God-forsaken place?" I said, "Well, two reasons. One is I'm speaking at that forum that you're speaking at, and the second reason is the fact that you're speaking at this, and I can't wait to listen to you speak in person." Set his bags down. "What are you going to be speaking about?" I go, "Well, healthcare policy." And he did this thing where he stepped back and tilted his head and kind of gave me one of these and said, "Well, tell me about this." I go, "Well, I'm going to be speaking about prevention and wellness and empowerment of individuals and how they can take control of their healthcare freedom, and that how a free market system, as opposed to the systems that are generated through big insurance and big medicine like the AMA and big pharma, how that has to be pushed aside, and we need to empower individuals, not government, not..." He goes, "Oh, tell me more." Well, the discussion went on for 15, 20 minutes. And it was kind of surreal to me. I mean, here I am. I'm on the street, on the sidewalk here. For some reason, not very few people were around. Here I am having this conversation with Rush Limbaugh, who was not at the 25 million listener category at that point, probably 3 to 5 million, but he was still big, huge. And here I am having this conversation. And the conversation all centered upon healthcare. He wanted to know about healthcare policy. And after about 15 minutes or so, I must have given him some kind of he was asking me a question, I must have given him some kind of a different look or something. And he looked at me, he did this, he goes, "What? What?" I go, "What do you mean, what? What?" He goes, "What were you thinking?" I go, "Well, we were talking about healthcare." No, you thought about something else." He was very perceptive. I said, "Well, I'm thinking about how surreal it is being able to talk to you." He goes, "That wasn't all." I go, "Well, I don't want to be insulting. I don't want to insult you, okay? It was about how surreal." He goes, "No, what was it?" I go, "Okay, but don't get insulted from this." He goes, "Believe me, I'm used to being insulted. I can take it." Okay. I go, "Rush, you're nothing like I thought you'd be." He looked at me and goes, "Well, what do you expect?" Kind of gave me one of these. He tilted his chin back, squinted his eyes, tilted his head. I go, "Well, look, we've been talking for like 15 minutes here. And all you want to talk about is healthcare policy and how I got involved in this and that what I do." I go, "We haven't talked about you at all." I go, "Rush, you're much more modest and much more humble and frankly kind of shy than I ever thought you would be." And he started laughing. And he looked at me then and he goes, "So are you disappointed?" I said, "No, I'm not. I'm not." And I wasn't. And we spoke for another 5 or 10 minutes. And then we walked inside. And as we walked into the hotel. He said, "Okay, I'll see you later, Dr. Dave." Actually, that was the first time anybody ever called me Dr. Dave, right? He goes, "I'll see you later, Dr. Dave." And I go, "Well, I'll see you, but I don't think you're going to see me." And the hundreds and hundreds of people that are going to be there kind of looked at me and walked away. I walked away. I gave my presentation. It was a 5-10 minute presentation on healthcare policy in front of this forum later that afternoon, late afternoon. And as I got up to speak and walked up to the podium, there were a couple side doors, double doors, in this big room. And the one closest to the stage, all of a sudden, as I was walking up, I noticed opened. And who stepped in was Rush Limbaugh. Just stood there. I gave my presentation, and I try to spice it up always. And one of the lines I used at the time, Bill Clinton's 1993, Bill Clinton was president, and he and Hillary were pushing on Hillary Care. He had put Hillary in charge of health care policy. And at one point in my presentation, I said, our president and her husband, Bill. And with that, everybody started to laugh. But the person who laughed the hardest and the longest was Rush Limbaugh. I gave my presentation, short, sweet, to the point, boom, 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 boom. Here's where we are. Here's where we need to go. Here's what we have to do. I walked off the stage, and I was behind the thing, and who comes up to me but Rush? "Dr. Dave, that was really good." "Oh, well, thank you. For coming from you, that's an incredible compliment. Thank you very much." "No, really, it was very good." He goes, "You do much media, TV, radio stuff?" I go, "I've done a fair amount, yes." He goes, "Well, I could tell because your timing. You didn't waste time. It was boom, boom, boom." I go, "Well, thank you." He goes, "Can I ask you a favor?" I go, "Sure." He said, "If I had my staff get in touch with you, would you be able to provide them information on healthcare policy if they had some questions?" "Absolutely." Gave him my phone number. A week later, someone by the name of Kathleen called me and asked for information on healthcare policy that Rush, and she was working on his TV show at the time. Rush did a TV show from, I think it was 1992 until 1996. I can tell you definitely when it ended. I think it started in 92, went to 96. And from 93 to 96, when there was a healthcare policy thing, they would contact me and I'd provide them information. And I have to say that I've dealt with a lot of people in the media. But the people that worked with Rush were the kindest, nicest, most sincere, very thorough individuals I had ever dealt with in the media. And one way you can tell something about someone is their people who work with them and how long they've worked with him. And the same people who worked with Rush on that TV show, many of them were with him till his dying day. And that includes James Golden, who's also known as Bo Snerdley, and Kathleen Gleason, who's also known as Cookie. They worked with him for 30 years, almost 30 years, if not more. And that tells you a lot about the individual. Because you and I know people who work with them that don't last 6 weeks repetitively, right? You can get someone that just doesn't work out, but there's this recurrent theme. Well, not with him. So they called me, and they were very kind and very sweet. And at the time, we weren't emailing things, we were faxing things. Fax was the big thing. So they would ask a question on policy, and I would write out the answers and fax it to them, or type it out and fax it to them. And that's how, kind of like carrier pigeon, that's how it worked back then. And then, as of 1996, Rush decided he wasn't going to do his TV show. Now, when I talked to Rush on the street that day, there was a comment he made that probably is why he would tell you he did not like to do TV. And when I said to him on the street in D.C., you're nothing like I thought you'd be. You're very modest, humble, and soft-spoken, shy. And here's what he said, quote, "Radio is revealing, but it's not completely revealing." End quote. And I think with TV, with video, it's a different kind of revealing. And granted, the guy works 3 hours every day. I do 3 hours on Sundays, and I'm like, whoa, that's a lot. It takes a lot out of you. Well, it does when you do live radio, but he did it every day, 5 days a week. And then to throw a TV show on top of it, it's awfully rough. But I think his comment about it's revealing but not completely revealing, TV and video can reveal a little bit differently of others. And, he really relished the thought that, he's a tough guy. And he did tell it like it was, but what I experienced face to face was, I think, one of the reasons why he didn't quite like TV as much as he liked radio. Because face to face, he was a very sincere, humble, modest guy. And on the radio, he was sincere, but he wasn't that modest, and he wasn't that humble. And that was part of the entertainment side to Rush. As time went on, as you know, Rush battled opioid addiction. It's a huge problem now. It was a problem back then. But it's interesting how the issue is treated so differently now from then. Back then, when he admitted it, he was denigrated. He was made fun of. He was humiliated. They were pushing for him to be removed from radio because of it. How sad. He had to not only battle his addiction, he had to battle the haters who wanted to use this. Now, people say, okay, well, look what President Trump did. He developed an opioid program to reduce dependency, to address those who are dependent. Now, Biden recently got rid of that. Ridiculous. Frankly, evil, sinister to do that. But our response, at least how it was handled most recently with programs and treatment programs and counseling programs, this is the right way to handle this issue, as opposed to hating somebody and trying to get them removed from their job because of it. Rehabilitate these people. It's possible. But he fought that battle. And he did not shirk from it. In fact, it got so crazy at one point, and I actually tried to help them out on this, which has never been done. The relationship, the doctor-patient relationship is sacrosanct. That your records are protected as well they should be. And in fact, Bill Clinton had this bill passed, HIPAA bill, where a confidentiality thing. Okay, good. But they tried in 2001 to remove Russia's HIPAA rights, and they tried to subpoena and get his medical records so they could humiliate him further. Oh, this is where I was sending information to his staff saying, no, no, no. This is absolutely not just for him, for anyone. Because if they do it to him, they're going to do it to everybody as a potential target. He fought it legally and won. And it wasn't just for him. It was for every American. He didn't get credit for that. Never did. I believe your medical privacy was protected by Limbaugh in what transpired in 2001. I saw it firsthand. And then came that announcement. Rush had missed several shows last January 2020. And then he made the announcement that he had stage 4 lung cancer. It's a tough diagnosis. It's a bad diagnosis. But he fought it. Did everything he could. But he didn't beat it. Which brought us to February 17th, 2021. And Catherine Limbaugh. And her beautifully done, beautifully delivered eulogy to her husband Rush. What's Rush Limbaugh's legacy? I believe his legacy, at least for me, is to believe in your God-given talents and abilities and never give up. Never give up. He never gave up. Here's a quote of his. Quote, "It's never time to panic, folks. It's never, ever going to be time to give up on our country. It will never be time to give up on the United States. It will never be time to give up on yourself." End quote. Rush Limbaugh. Winston Churchill was fond of saying, "You make a living by what you get. You make a life by what you give." Rush Limbaugh made a great living, but he had an even better life. Why? Because his unending ability to give, not just those 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, but beyond that. He took his God-given talents and abilities, and he raised them to such a level that he inspired all of us to take our God-given talents and abilities and raise them to a higher bar. Frankly, the reason why I got in radio, the reason why I have this YouTube channel and the Rumble channel and the website, davejanda.com, really, when it comes down to it, the seeds of all that was planted in that conversation I had with Rush Hudson Limbaugh in the spring of 1993 in that, as he called it, God-forsaken place called Washington, D.C. I thank you for your time today. Until next time, Dave Janda, signing off. Dream big and dare to fail. I hope you'll join us every Sunday from 2 to 5 Eastern for the radio show. It's free and it's live. At least we try to be live when the deep state doesn't hit the station with a power surge. The podcasts are available on the homepage. My wingman, Derek Stone, has them up by 8 p.m. on Sundays. It's part of our subscription service. along with our other shows that we do, our WTF show, Insider Insight show, Department of Advanced Research show, and the like, all there, including our archives, all the way back to the inception of Operation Freedom in October of 2010. I hope you become part of our Freedom family. Until next time, Dave Jan is signing off. Dream big and dare to fail.